Hello, everybody. My name is Hello. Welcome back to this series where we're dealing with Flutter programming and we're trying to simplify a lot of Flutter concepts so that you guys can use it toward your lab exams, or if you're new to learning Flutter, just kind of demystify and make sure that Flutter is not overwhelming. Today, we're going to be talking about creating a simple to-do application in Flutter. Now, I'm going to give you a disclaimer. This is going to be something that gets the functionality of a to-do application there. I will not be focusing on the UI or how it looks, mainly because when I do that, there's going to be a lot of extra code lines. And when you are looking at this and we're trying to learn how you're going to do all of this, that will become more overwhelming. You can always build these beautiful GUIs on top of the functionality, but my job here is going to be to tell you about how the functionality is and how we are trying to create a very simple to do application. So this is going to be only 67 lines, something that I don't think you can see anywhere else in the internet. We're trying to create a to do application with Flutter. Okay. So I'll first of all take it through the app. So what it is a simple form. So what I'll do is, for example, brush my teeth is something I want to do, for example. So I'm going to click the add button. It'll create a to do. Okay. Then whatever, drive, put petrol in vehicle. Let's say this is a to do that I have, right? And maybe drive car, for example. So these are three to-do tasks that I'm creating. All of this is displayed in my application. Now, once I'm done with something, all I need to do is just click on this particular thing and it disappears. So not only are we adding to-do, we're able to delete it. Of course, the edit functionality is not there, but this should serve as a simple to-do application, because if you want to edit stuff, you can always delete this and then add another to-do. Okay, that's how that works. If you guys are satisfied with what this looks like, let's go ahead and see how to code this, and let me try to break down this so that you can understand this better. As always, let's go ahead and delete all of this and start this from scratch. First, import, as always, material.dot so that we can use a lot of stuff. Again, we're going to be using a form here. That means we're going to be creating a form state, form key. Now, we have another video on forms in Flutter, so I'm not going to be explaining a lot of this. But yeah, you guys can go ahead and watch that video if you haven't. Okay. Next, something to keep in mind is the void main function. Also, something that's always common. Here, we're dealing with different states. Therefore, you have to go ahead and create a stateful widget. Okay, let's call that widget home. Everything works great. Now, how we're going to be building this, let me just go walk through what is going on here. When I enter a to-do in this form and I press the add button, what happens? The form validates, right? Now, when I'm validating the form, what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be adding whatever text that is here into a list in Flutter. Then what I'm going to do is, here I'm going to be creating a list view builder, which will display everything that's there in the list. When I click on something, I am going to be deleting that element in the list and setting the state again, so that when I display all the elements from this list, that element is no longer there, basically making that deleted. Okay. If you're able to understand what I said, let's go ahead and build this out. So I'm going to be saving this right now so that we can start from this placeholder and build from there. Right. Let's go ahead uh, with the UI first, then we'll implement the functionality itself. Okay, so I'm going to be creating a simple column, and maybe, okay, this should be scaffold, right? So scaffold, and inside my scaffold, I'm going to be creating a body, and in that body, I'm going to be passing this column widget, and this column widget will have some children. Okay, so first of all, the child would be a form, correct? And then the form will always have a key, which will be a form key, which is something that we just declared, correct? Then I'll also have a child for it, and the child will be nothing but a okay, maybe children, correct? So children. So I can actually have this as a column instead of. So I'll have another column. Okay, it'll make sense in a bit. Trust me. So in this, what you're going to be having is you're going to have the text, correct, and then below that you're going to have some space, and below that you're going to have the elevated button which you click and it goes through, right? So it'll be a column inside a column, if that makes sense. So first of all, my child is one of the children, at least, is going to be a text form field, correct? And there are some things that you need to add. You have to add a validator, right? This will come back to. But before that, we also have to add some more stuff. We need to add a decoration. So there'll be an input decoration, and inside this, you can actually pass a label, which is a text. You can simply say enter to do, for example, correct? And then we can close this out. Okay. So validator for now, let's just create an imp function. And of course, this function should take a parameter and return a string, correct? So let's just call this nothing, and let this also take a string as the parameter st. And then let's just close this out right now. So we can go ahead and add this as a validator. Now this nothing will actually, it will be adding this element to the list, correct? So let's just go ahead and call this that itself so that it's simpler when we actually do that. So once this is done, let me go ahead and add some spacing so that there's some space between this and the button itself. So I'm going to create a sized box, and then maybe the height will be 100. Oh, it's a BOX. Sorry about that. So once you're done with this, let's go ahead and add the elevated button itself. Now the elevated button will have one function. So on press, we're going to be validating this form. So that's something that we have to add. And then child will be nothing but a text, which will say nothing but add. Okay, so I have to define another function, which is called validate. So let's go ahead and define this validate also. Let's not add the functionality as of yet. But once I'm done with this, you should be able to see that I am able to type something and click the add button. Now, something to keep in mind, maybe this should be capital, so that looks maybe a slightly bit better. Something to keep in mind is once I'm adding this does not go ahead and I can't see what I've just added, okay? Because the functionality, first of all, is not there, plus the viewing part is also not there. Let's start with the functionality, then we'll go ahead with the list view builder so that the flow becomes a bit better. What I'm going to be doing, as always, and now this is something that we already discussed. I'm going to be creating a list of strings, which can be also null, right? Which will be a list. Let me just set that to be something like this. Okay. Now I'm going to be adding to this add to list function. What I'm going to be doing is list.add of I. Okay. And then I just return, sorry, not I, this should be st, correct? Okay, now let's go ahead with this validate function. What we're going to be doing is if form key, wait, or maybe I should put this in parentheses. So form key dot current state dot, oh, this should not be null, by the way. So dot validate. If this is true, then nothing, just call the set state so that we can refresh stuff, and nothing else we're really doing here. So maybe this empty function inside that, and then close this off. This is the functionality that you actually need here. But we're also going to be removing stuff from this list, but that we'll talk about a bit more. But let's just add stuff for now. I'm adding, nothing is going on because I'm not displaying what I've added. Maybe it's gone through the list itself, but we're not displaying the list. Now, how do you do that? Well, let's come back to this bigger column right here. So one child will obviously be this form, but another child is going to be our list view builder. Okay, so list view builder, what is that? That is nothing but a widget which is used to display multiple widgets. Okay, and that is something that we're creating dynamically, so like a for loop, and that for loop will create multiple widgets. If that makes sense, that's awesome. So what I'm going to be doing is, first of all, I'm going to wrap this inside an expanded widget. The reason being is once this add goes, everything below here, I want to occupy this full state. That's why I'm going with the expanded widget, and I'm wrapping this over that so that I am able to space this out properly. Okay, so the child will be nothing but the list view dot builder, and we're creating a list view builder. There, some things to keep in mind is you have to create an item count first. That is something that we know already. It'll be nothing but lst.length. That will be the length of our list. You're going to be creating those many widgets, correct? And then we are going to be going with the item builder parameter. That will take two parameters, which will be context and index. So what we'll be doing here is, in this function, we're going to be creating so return. Let's create a card. Okay, so card will be the widget that you're going to be going for here, and inside this card, let's create a container. Okay, so container will be with the height maybe 70 or so, 70, and then we can create a child, which will be nothing but the text of that list of index. Okay, if this makes sense, fantastic. And we should also insert, assert this to be not null. If it's null, just don't display it. That's something that we can specify here. So once that is done, I can actually go ahead and close this out. Once I'm done with this, I can close this out as well. If I'm not wrong, I think, yeah, this should be closed. Yeah, everything works out for now. Maybe I just put this and I click the add button. You can see all of this goes on. Now, some things to keep in mind. This is toward the top left of it. There's no spacing in between that. That means in our container, we can actually add something called padding, correct? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do some quick padding to this container. Maybe I can do a comma here so that it doesn't give me any syntax problems for now. What I'm going to be doing is edge inserts, right? Something that you might know already. Insets, sorry, not inserts. Dot all, so that padding is there in all four directions. And then I'm going to just, okay, maybe I just take this out and then save this new application, reload a bit. I click the add button. You can see all of this goes through. Now, something to keep in mind is, see, this is why I say expand, right? It'll just expand to whatever remaining space is there. And I can scroll through this actually, not scrolling through the entire application, but scrolling through this list right here. Now, something to keep in mind is I don't have the delete functionality yet. That means I'm going to be wrapping this card actually over a gesture detector. On tap, I'm going to be deleting that particular index from the list. If that makes sense, very awesome. I'm going to click control and period over here. I'm going to say wrap with widget, and I'm going to be wrapping this on gesture detector. Now, gesture detector is also a widget that we have already looked at in the series. If you guys are not sure about that, you can always go ahead and look into that video. Okay. So what I'm going to do here is on tap. Okay, I'm just going to call a very simple function. I'll write that function here itself. So what that function will do is nothing. It will set state. Okay, and inside this I have to define another function. We'll keep that nameless. So I'll define this here itself. List dot remove at index. Okay, all of this will make sense now. Let me go ahead and close out all of this so that I can explain what I've just done right now. See, when we are building, we are building a function with this index parameter, correct? That means in my list view builder, there are going to be multiple widgets. Each widget will have its own index, correct? Now, if I'm able to use this index right here inside this function, I'm able to delete whatever is there in that index because I know what index it is, correct? That is why I'm wrapping this over here and then defining this here. Index is something you'll use from this function. What I'm saying is if I'm clicking on that particular tile, go ahead and then remove that tile or the text of that tile from the list and then set state also, which means the next time you render this list, this element is itself not going to be there, thereby achieving what we just want. Okay. Now this is our to-do application. Let's go ahead and test this out. So test one, I'm going to click the add button and then to do two, and then maybe another task, for example, again, drive car is something you can do, right? We have three to dos, right? When I click on something, it gets deleted. And that is how this works. And by the way, when I click something empty, it also goes through. My challenge for you guys is to tell me why that happens. Okay. I'll give you a clue also, something to do with these lines right here. Add a comment if you found out why that's happening. Well, that's it for creating a simple to-do application, ladies and gentlemen. I hope you're able to understand what we're doing here. I hope this code was simple enough for you guys to replicate it. If you're able to understand this video, fantastic. If you're not, watch this again. I tried my best to explain this. If this video helped you, hit that like button. All of this code will be there in the GitHub repository. Link of that will be in the description. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you in another video. Until then, bye.